The airplane hummed softly as it cut through the clouds, floating high above the world like a fragile promise. Rows of passengers sat quietly, some asleep, some scrolling on their phones, others lost in their thoughts. For most of them, this flight was just another journey. For Daniel Walker, it was something much bigger. Daniel sat in the economy section, seat 24C, with his 6-year-old daughter Emily pressed gently against his side. Her small fingers wrapped around his, as if afraid he might disappear. Daniel didn't mind. He liked the weight of her hand in his. It reminded him why he kept going. Emily's mother had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness. Since then, Daniel had been both father and mother, protector and provider. He worked long hours, slept little, and worried constantly, but never in front of Emily. To her, he was strong. Always calm. Always smiling. "Daddy," Emily whispered, her voice barely louder than the engine. "Are we flying higher than the clouds?" Daniel smiled and nodded. "Yes, sweetheart. Way higher." She leaned toward the window, eyes wide with wonder. "Mama would like this." Daniel swallowed hard but nodded again. Yes. She would. This trip had taken months of saving. Daniel had been offered a modest training opportunity in another city, nothing fancy, but it meant a better schedule and more time with Emily. For him, that was everything. A few rows ahead, separated by a thin curtain, sat a woman whose life looked nothing like Daniel's. Victoria Hale sat alone in first class, dressed in a perfectly tailored navy suit. Her hair was neatly tied back, her posture confident, controlled. She was the CEO of Hale Tech Industries, one of the most powerful technology companies in the world. To the public, she was brilliant, unstoppable, admired and feared in equal measure. Inside, she was exhausted. Victoria stared out the window, but she wasn't seeing the sky. Her mind replayed endless meetings, deadlines, expectations. She hadn't slept properly in weeks. Coffee had replaced meals. Stress had become normal. Her assistant had begged her to rest. "I'll sleep when the deal closes," Victoria had replied. But now, at 30,000 feet, her vision blurred. A sharp pain shot through her chest, followed by dizziness so sudden it made her grip the armrest. She took a deep breath. Then another. Her fingers trembled. A flight attendant noticed her pale face and approached. "Ma'am, are you feeling all right?" Victoria tried to respond, but the words wouldn't form. The glass of water on her tray slipped from her hand and shattered against the floor. And then, she collapsed. The sound echoed through the cabin. For a split second, everything froze. Then chaos erupted. "Oh my God!" She fainted. "Call for help." Flight attendants rushed forward. Passengers stood in their seats, craning their necks. Someone shouted for a doctor. "Is there a medical professional on board?" The captain's voice echoed through the cabin. Silence. No one moved. In the economy section, Daniel felt Emily's grip tighten. "Daddy," she whispered, fear creeping into her voice. Daniel stood up. He didn't think about it. He didn't hesitate. "I'm not a doctor," he said clearly, stepping into the aisle, "but I know first aid and emergency response." A flight attendant looked at him desperately. "Please. Come." Daniel handed Emily to the woman beside him. "Please hold her." Emily looked scared. "Daddy." "I'll be right here," he promised, pressing his forehead gently to hers. "I promise." Daniel knelt beside Victoria. Her skin was cold, her breathing shallow. He checked her pulse. Weak, irregular. "When did she last eat?" he asked. The assistant shook her head. "She's been working non-stop. Barely drinking water." Daniel nodded calmly, though his heart was racing. "She's severely dehydrated. Possibly stress-induced collapse." He instructed the attendants to bring oxygen, loosen her collar, elevate her legs. His voice was steady.
confident, like someone who had stood beside hospital beds too many times before.
As oxygen flowed, Victoria stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, confused and frightened.
"Easy," Daniel said softly. "You're safe."
She looked at him, disoriented.
Who are you?"
"Just someone who didn't want you to be alone," he replied. Her breathing steadied slowly. The cabin fell silent, watching. Emily peeked from her seat, tears in her eyes, but when she saw her father calm and strong, her fear softened. The plane continued its journey, but something had shifted inside it. When they landed, paramedics boarded and carefully placed Victoria on a stretcher.
Before being taken away, she turned her head.
"Find him," she whispered to her assistant. "The man with the little girl." Daniel watched as she was wheeled away, then returned to Emily. She wrapped her arms around him.
"You were brave, Daddy."
He hugged her tightly.
"I was just kind." Days passed. Daniel returned to his routine.
Work, school pickups, grocery lists, quiet dinners.
The flight became just another memory, until his phone rang during a warehouse shift.
"Mr. Walker," a calm voice asked.
"This is Hailtech Industries." Daniel nearly dropped the box he was carrying.
A week later, he sat in a sleek office surrounded by glass walls and city views he'd never imagined seeing.
Victoria Hale stood as he entered. This time, she wasn't wearing a suit. Just a simple blouse. No assistants. No barriers.
"You saved my life," she said quietly.
Daniel shook his head. Anyone would have done the same.
She smiled sadly.
No. They didn't. She invited him to sit. They talked. Daniel spoke about Emily.
About her mother.
About nights spent worrying over bills and mornings pretending everything was fine.
Victoria listened, truly listened. Then she spoke of her own childhood. Of growing up unwanted, passed from place to place. Of building walls so strong she forgot how to ask for help. "You reminded me," she said softly, "that strength
isn't about power. It's about presence." Weeks later, Daniel received an envelope. Inside was a letter.
Emily had been granted a full educational scholarship.
Medical coverage. Support Daniel had never dared to dream of.
Victoria also offered Daniel a position at her company not because of gratitude, but because she believed in him.
But the greatest moment came one quiet evening when Victoria visited Daniel's small apartment. Emily opened the door.
Victoria knelt to her level.
"Your father is very brave." Emily smiled shyly. "Daddy says kindness is free." Victoria's eyes filled with tears.
That night, as Victoria left, she looked back at the warm light glowing from Daniel's window. For the first time in years, she felt something unfamiliar.
Peace. High above the clouds, a single father had reminded a powerful CEO what it meant to be human.
And a little girl learned that courage doesn't come from titles or money.
It comes from the heart.